Good evening and welcome back. This is Siva. Concept of division or division algorithm. Actually, I was discussing this with my students today and I thought I would introduce this to you as well. I chose a number which is, this is the basic division of numbers. I chose a number which is 8 divided by 3 and the quotient would be 2 and the remainder is 2. I just want you to be familiar with these names. This number 8 is called the dividend, 3 is the divisor, 3 times 2 will give us 6, so 2 is the quotient. 8 minus 6 will give you 2 and that 2 is the remainder. Using these four names, dividend, divisor, quotient and remainder, we form an equation. That equation is called the concept of division or division algorithm, or you could just call it as equation of division. Dividend equals quotient times divisor plus the remainder. 8 is equal to quotient is 2 and the divisor is 3 plus the remainder which is 2, right? So if you move this 2 to the left hand side, so 8 minus 2 will give you 6 and that 6 could be exactly divided by 3. So this is true in all cases, alright? Let us move to the next page. And I wanted to introduce polynomials. Maybe I could have a separate session on explaining what a polynomial is actually. Now I would just take this x cube minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 4. If you see the powers of x is all non-negative integers, it means positive integers, and the highest power is 3, so we could call this as a cubic polynomial. So this is called a cubic polynomial. Polynomial is basically an expression in mathematics which has a different form. As I mentioned, that the exponent or exponents of x should be positive. That is why we say that non-negative integers cannot just be positive, it should be positive integers or non-negative integers, means the same. And since the highest exponent is 3, we call this as cubic polynomial and the degree of this polynomial is 3. As I mentioned, I would have a separate session on explaining about polynomials. So as of now, this is a cubic polynomial and we have x minus 2. This polynomial is divided by x minus 2 and this is, since the exponent here is 1, this is called a linear polynomial. So dividing a polynomial by another polynomial. Let us see the process here. X cubed minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 4. Just consider only the first term of the dividend and the first term of the divisor and compare. I just have to multiply this x with something so that I would get exactly x cubed, positive x cubed. So I have to multiply this x with x squared. So I just write x squared on the top, which is the quotient, part of the quotient. Now once I write x squared on the top, I should multiply the whole divisor with x squared. X squared times x is x cubed, x squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. And we know after we write the terms or an expression down here or a number down here, we subtract, right? So when you have a polynomial, and you subtract another polynomial, it means that the second polynomial will go with change of signs inside, right? So I'll just erase this and say the second polynomial should go with change of signs. So this positive x cubed becomes negative, and this negative becomes positive because it is a polynomial minus of another polynomial. So the whole of second polynomial goes with a change of sign. So this x cube and minus x cube becomes 0. Now you have negative 5x square and positive 2x square, which is negative 3x square, and I just move one term down, which is positive 8x. Now I do the same thing. I compare the first term here with x. So I should multiply this x with negative 3x. So I would get exactly the same, including the sign. I don't want an opposite sign. I just want the exact thing, negative 3x squared. So I just multiply this x with negative 3x. So hence we have negative 3x squared. You have to multiply the whole divisor with negative 3x. So we have negative 3x squared positive 6x. I do the same thing here. I just say plus and I say minus here. The second polynomial goes with the change of sign, and this get simplified becomes 0. 8x minus 6x is 2x, and I bring this negative 4 down, right? Now I would compare this 2x with this x, the same process again. I need the same 2x, so I just multiply, put positive 2 on the top and multiply the divisor with 2. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. When I change the signs, this becomes 0. Positive 2x, negative 4, positive 4 becomes 0. So here it means the remainder is 0. Alright. From this I could conclude saying that x minus 2 is a factor. So before that I don't know the remainder. Now after I divide the polynomial, the cubic polynomial by the linear polynomial, I end up with the remainder, which is 0. So hence I could call x minus 2 is a factor of x cubed minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 4. For example, when we say 2 is a factor of 8, it means the remainder would be 0. The same thing works with polynomials. Alright, I hope you understood the previous division, the concept of division or division algorithm. And this is the long division, right, when a polynomial is divided by another polynomial. Now you assume that you have not done this and you don't know what the remainder is. Alright, I just want you to show multiple ways of finding the remainder. One way is dividing a polynomial by another polynomial, which is this. And the next thing is we just use the dividend equals quotient times divisor plus remainder. Assume that you have not done the long division and you are not aware of the quotient and the remainder. The only thing is given is what? The cubic equation, which we consider, the cubic expression or the cubic polynomial, which we consider to be the dividend. Your polynomial, which is the dividend, which is equal to q of x quotient. You could I just use q because it's quotient. I could use any unknown, doesn't matter. I just wanted to use something which suits exactly. So dividend, I use d of x and I replace the given polynomial as x cubed minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 4, which is equal to q of x, which is the quotient, times, I know the divisor is x minus 2, plus I assume that I don't know the remainder. So we have only two information, a cubic polynomial divided by a linear polynomial, the same information as before. I hope you guys follow me so far. I hope it's clear as well. Now since I have no information on the quotient, right, and there is a product here, I would just take x to be 2. So if I take x as 2, what will happen to this whole term? Becomes 0. 2 minus 2 becomes 0. So 0 multiplies with anything becomes 0. This is an equation, right? I cannot simply plug in 2 on the right hand side. I should do it on either side. So I just plug in x on the left hand side as well. So therefore I have 2 cube minus 5 times 2 square plus 8 times 2, which will give me 2 cube minus 5 times 2 square plus 8 times 2 minus 4, which is 8, minus 5 times 4 is 20, plus 8 times 2 is 16, minus 4. On the right hand side we have just, this becomes 0, I just have r, right? So 8 plus 16 is 24, and negative 20, negative 4 is negative 24, therefore the remainder is 0. So you could find the remainder using the long division, or you could directly use the concept of division or the division algorithm to find the remainder. Since the remainder is 0, I mentioned before that x minus 2 is a factor of the given polynomial, right? So I would directly, this has a link to factor theorem. Why do I use the word factor theorem? Because the moment when you say 2 is a factor of 8, the remainder is 0, right? So if I say x minus 2 is a factor of x cubed minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 4, the remainder is 0. We have already seen, right? So we will just state the factor theorem using these ideas. So what you have to do here is, the given linear polynomial is x minus 2. Just equate it to 0. So you will have x is equal to 2. This is the first step. Equate the divisor to 0 and get the value of x. Now I have x is equal to 2. The given polynomial is considered as p of x, which is x cubed minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 4. And I replace x to be 2. So p of 2 is equal to 2 cube minus 5 times 2 square plus 8 times 2 minus 4, which will give you 0, which means p of 2 is equal to 0. And this is the third way of finding the remainder. Since the remainder is equal to 0, I could just directly link that with the factor theorem, and I would just state the factor theorem from all the information that we had from before. If x minus a is a factor of the polynomial p of x, I'll repeat this once again. If x minus a is a factor of the polynomial p of x, I just say x minus a is equal to 0, therefore x is equal to a. I have the value for x now. So the conclusion is, if x minus a is a factor of the polynomial p of x, then p of x is replaced as a. P of a will be equal to a remainder. In this case, the remainder is 0. Hence, we call this as the factor theorem. I will repeat this once again. To find the remainder, we use the long division and we use the equation of division, which has a direct link to factor theorem. So when it comes to a polynomial divided by another polynomial, if there is a word called factor, if the word says x minus a is a factor of the polynomial, then I would just directly say p of a is equal to 0. There wouldn't be any remainder because the word factor means there is no remainder. So a polynomial, a cubic polynomial divided by a linear polynomial in this case, and we have seen that p of 2 is equal to 0, from which I would just conclude factor theorem using a. Let's say x minus a is a factor. I could even call it as linear factor. If x minus a is a linear factor of the polynomial p of x, then p of a is equal to 0. So I hope you understood this explanation, and maybe I can take one more session on explaining more about polynomials and its different forms. Only few polynomials as names, and then you just, because numbers doesn't stop, right? So we cannot name each polynomial. So we just name it as, for example, if it's 6th degree, if the higher exponent is 6, you just say 6th degree polynomial or 7th degree polynomial. So we can proceed further, and we could discuss more about polynomials in my future videos. Thank you for watching. Please comment if you have any questions, and also like, share and subscribe. I will see you all in my next video. Thank you guys.